Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to another edition of GMTT right here on CTV. And remember, we're also live on Talk City 91.1 FM and streaming on ctvtt.com. It is a brand new work week, and yes, we have made it through the weekend. Well, this morning we begin our show with Green Days by the River, and we are privileged to have on set the director and author of the book Green Days, and we have the director Michael Mooledhar,
Yeah.
and so many Michaels, and the author Mr. Michael Anthony. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you. Good morning to you.
Now, it's a privilege to have you on this morning, especially we're talking about the movie Green Days by the River, but we would like to talk also a little bit about the book and how you feel about this movie, actually, out of your own book. How do you feel about this?
How do I feel about it? Well, I mean, I am very surprised in the first place that it was chosen for
Why?
film.
Why were you surprised?
Well, the book is 50 years old, you know. Nice and signed in 1967, so I've been waiting for this for 50 years.
And then comes Michael, your namesake.
And there comes Michael, yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the actual production?
Well, I haven't seen much of it. I saw the trailers, which I liked, but I haven't seen very much of it because, I deliberately tried to keep away from being a nuisance when they were making the film, because I am a writer. I don't make films. I can't make films.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to make myself a nuisance.
I'm sure it wasn't like that. And Michael would comment on that a little bit. You would have collaborated with Mr. Anthony on many occasions, I'm sure. Tell us about that.
I mean, from the time once the project was happening, I would consult with him all the time because remember, I was only born in '85 and we actually set the movie in 1952. So like I would ask him to recreate, what it would be like, and I'd ask about like what his bedroom might look like, where he slept, what would be on the wall, like to really get a very intimate sense of this time period. But then throughout the conversations, I realized that he would tell me a lot of it is taken from his childhood. So therefore, I would just kind of ask about those things, what it was like growing up in Miaro. And because of that, I ended up having the lead character, which is Sudai Tafari. I made him have a conversation with Michael Anthony so he could, grasp and understand, and also like the art department, because they would like ask him, how his bed would have been. A lot of details, like we asked about the music of the time, the language, the race relations, the type of road. What's the name of the road? It's Maca. The type of road it had at that.
Macadamia.
Yeah, so that wasn't wrong. So all these things you described us. So I know a simple thing like we couldn't use a place that had like how asphalt look right now, because it'll be very modern.
Yeah.
So we know we have to find locations that look different.
So it may have been a challenge to recreate that kind of time setting.
I mean, 1952 isn't that long ago, but a lot of 1952 do exist.
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about some of the advice that you were able to give to the main characters in this particular story.
Well, I think in general, the guidelines were in the book. I talked about how they lived, what they had and what they didn't have, and then he would ask me, Michael would ask me, well, what do you like, for instance, of course, the chest of drawers, and the name is still around, but he might ask me something like that. What was the chest of drawers like in 1952 and that sort of thing? And how did people live? How did they live? How did they act, etc.? What did the young people in Miaro do? And I said, well, I don't know if I told him that, but it's told in the book.
Yeah, I think he did.
It's in the book.
But we did. We even took. I think we drove down Miaro together. Me, you, and Christian James as the producer.
Right. Yes.
We took a drive down Miaro a day and drove down the Cedar Grove, and he was like, "This is where my house used to be."
Really?
So we got like the full tour of Miaro. So it was really like you really have to get into that time zone.
And it did help, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course.
It did help.
It's just a step of getting more comfortable with the story so that you can bring it to life.
Mr. Anthony, what inspired this particular book?
What inspired it? Well, I don't know really. After I had my first 2 books published, which was The Games Are Coming was the first in 1963, and The Year in San Fernando was 1965. After that period, I thought to myself, but after all, I mean, you are a country boy, you are a Mayaro boy. You wrote about the urban areas, the Pointe-a-Pierre and San Fernando. Write about Mayaro now. This is the time to bring Mayaro out, you know what I mean?
Okay.
That sort of thing. And then in those far-off days as well, as a small boy, I had always felt people were, they used to dismiss Mayaro at a place where you got a lot of suquillas and that sort of
Was
thing.
that highlighted, the folklore
No,
aspect of it?
no,
it wasn't. Okay.
no. The folklore wasn't highlighted. But because of this, I thought I would write about Mayaro so that people would know about it, you know? Because I worked in San Fernando and Pointe-a-Pierre, and the life there, of course, is very different. Mayaro was still very remote in those days. And so I thought this was a way of showing people that we lived and we didn't need San Fernando or Port of Spain. We, you know, we had all we wanted. We flew kites, we pitched tops and so on. I mean, the young children, the elderly people and the adults were, well, they made the place almost unforgettable. You know, by the way they dealt with us, with the young. And I thought I'd bring this in, generally speaking, by just setting a novel, let the action flow, let the action take place. But I couldn't help, when you are starting to write a book, generally, you are into the characters, you are into the time, the period, you see, so you don't make any mistake about this at all because you are there.
Yes.
That, say you're talking about a fellow of 21, you are 21 too, so you would know what his reaction would be like. So I thought if I do this picture, then I will have, say, served what I was always complaining about, that people usually said, oh, Mayaro bush, that sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
And of course we had bush there, but we liked the bush, and we liked the beach and the sea and so on. So I was concentrating on drawing a picture of Mayaro with words.
Yes, and you did. You would say he did. He did achieve that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the book is like the blueprint to the film.
Okay.
You know, it's like a guideline. So anytime I had any problems, we go and looked at it. And it's very visual, the description in the book.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because most of the times we read a book and we love the book. And then when we look at the film, we're disappointed.
Yeah.
It's not the case. This is not the case.
I hope it's not the
hope
case.
not.
Well, as you know, tomorrow is the first playing is the world premiere at the Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival. And I think we did stick close to the book because for many reasons, but one of them is we do want the film to have a long lifespan. Like, as the book is 50 years old, we hope the film could one day be 50 years old and still be around. And I think an element of that is the awareness of the fans, and also that it could be an educational product for people who do literature in school and all that. So we didn't want to deviate too far from it. So, but at the end of the day, you have to adapt a book into a film. So a film is its own life force. So we would change something simple, like in the book they might have, say, 15 conversations by the cashew tree. But when you make a movie, you can't set all 15, because people will just be like, oh, we back by the cashew tree to see that 15 times. So you have to get creative. So we might move a conversation to the river. We might do this, and then you mold the story and adjust it and fix it, because it had to find its own life and own spirit.
That's a good point to raise there, actually. Now, what influenced your decision to make a movie out of this particular book?
I mean, you know, it's much the same way, like when you say, how you would say he doesn't know, but on some level it's like, it's so many reasons that had to come together. One is like, obviously we have to love the story and be connected to it. Once you're making a film, like a feature length, you're going to spend 3 to 4 years of your life. So you had to be able to sustain that interest. We definitely love the story and connect to the story, and it's a story we want to tell. It have that other side where the business side have to work, and you have to be able to fund it. And so it's like a mix, because I have scripts written that I can't get made, but at the same point in time, so it's just a lot of mixes, and is how the stars align to make it happen, you know?
Yeah, Mr. Anthony, tell me something. Green Days by the River. Where did you get that name from?
Well, oddly enough, there are certain things which occur to you even before you think about it. Whenever I think of Cedar Grove Road, I think of green. It's a mantle of green. In the dry season, sometimes you have the immortelle trees there with their red flowers falling on the surface of the road. But I just think of green. It's a very lush place. It used to be.
You know what's exciting about it? I just don't know.
Yeah.
So like the first time we was doing a drive around Miaro, and we had read the book to actually see Cedar Grove. You know, it's like, and drive. We drove to we tried to drive to the end. I don't know where this end. And it actually runs along this river, is the Ottawa?
Ottawa.
Yeah, the Ottawa River. So it's kind of, you know, that relationship to, and now we've seen it on film.
Yeah.
So it's this weird relationship to, like, you read about it, you could actually go and see it in Trinidad, and now you can go and watch your movie. So it's interesting.
Very interesting experience. Now, Mr. Anthony, what message did you hope to deliver in your book?
What message? I think one thing that a novelist must try to avoid is sending a message. A novelist has to, he has one responsibility, I think, that is telling a story, the story. And this is the important thing in what he is doing. And the reader isn't really looking for a message, but even so, you don't really, this is not the situation for it. And if I want to send a message to somebody, I write non-fiction. So by the time you write fiction, you have to create a word. You create the word. And if the need, the great need is water, well, you fix the story to suit that particular thing. One thing you said a little earlier on, that sometimes you read a book and you love the book, and then you see the film and you are disappointed. Well, I think most writers I know, especially writers like, say, Hemingway, he hated all the films of his book. But the trouble here, I think, is this, that I have recognized I can't make films. I just write books. So I leave the filmmaker to make the film. But Hemingway, he felt strongly about certain things and so on, without realizing that he is not a filmmaker. Let the filmmaker do his thing. And if he's good, then the film will come out, will emerge a good thing. And so I think the majority of writers feel that what they've written, the gems they have written, must remain gems there. But in this format, no. A playwright, for instance, has a different sort of consideration to a filmmaker and to a writer, to a novel writer, then. You know, different, because he has to do different things. Things that are done on the stage can't be done in a novel, cannot be. And all these things you have to bear in mind.
Yeah.
Now, I was going to jump in. He's saying all that, but he have a role in the film.
Really?
So he was there for one day of filming.
Tell me about this particular
It's
day.
a nice cameo. Yeah, but he could tell you about how his experience was.
Tell us about your experience being
Well,
being there while it was actually being filmed.
Well, these filmmakers kindly said to me that if I could just appear in one little scene, it
He
would be
did
nice.
appear in one scene.
Yeah, he in the film.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. Well,
And it was
just
just there was a character called Mr. Prepat.
okay.
And they told me, well, you act like Mr. Prepat. You see, so I had to walk down a little road and the chief actor, you know, passing. He in the film he was what?
Shell.
Shell was just passing and me, and I said, "Hello, Shell. Good morning."
Yeah. This is, you remember your line?
And I just passed, and he passed, and that was that. But I do appreciate
Being part of the film.
and yes, being part of it, because 50 years hence,
Yeah.
my grandchildren may say, "Look,
Yes.
Grandpa is."
Exactly. Yeah.
That was really nice. Now, were you surprised when you found out that someone was actually making a movie, a film out of your book?
Well, they came to me Christian
Michael.
and Michael came to me and talked to me about it, because the first thing they have to do in a case like that is to find out if the rights are available.
Exactly. Yes.
You see?
Yeah.
So they asked me this, and we moved from there. But when they turned their backs to go, I said, but these fellows are mad. I think.
We probably are. Yeah.
So how do you feel now? You feel proud, I'm sure.
I feel glad. I feel thrilled. I am not excited yet, as I told him.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not excited, but I feel that it's a great privilege to have a film made from a book.
Mr. Mooledhar, what do you
Yes.
want people to walk away with after viewing this film?
I want people to walk away with, like, kind of reliving what old Trinidad was, and that sense of pureness. Because for me, you look around any kind of negativity we have going on right now, I strongly feel like Green Days by the River is a very patriotic film. So I hope people could take away that sense of values from where they came from, and kind of that could come back into society a little simpler, nicer time, and the idea of maybe even the connection to outdoors. That's what I want. I mean, and then I want them to just enjoy the movie and enjoy the experience, because we put a lot of energy and effort into making it happen. The film took we started in November 2014. That's when we put our first talk to Michael Anthony. And that's why I say, when you ask a question like the inspiration, a lot of things have to come together. So he have to give us permission, and we have to work out that, and then it's stage to stage to stage, before we get here.
And then you all had some challenges in terms of cost.
Yeah, well, I mean, making a movie is like, you have two things that are enemies: time and money. Like, you never have enough time and you can never have enough money. So you're going to war against, you're going to battle against these two things, and hopefully you could come out of it and make it to the end and, have a product.
All right. Now, you spoke about pureness, which I thought was very, very interesting. Do you think the cast that you had, they were able to deliver that?
Yeah, I mean, we made some interesting decisions. A lot of the leads are non-actors. So we tried to really find people who, I want to say, already had some of the attributes, or you could just pull it out of their personality a little bit. So I think they definitely, portrayed the characters. And that's one thing, like, I'm the kind of person where, as a director, if somebody has the look but they can't act, I'm not going to use them. So I more go towards, they need to be able to act and play the role, and then we could find a way to make them look like the character.
Really? I would think it's the opposite.
No, but that's what I'm saying, because that's how you end up with, like, people who look exactly like the character.
Yeah.
But the film not good because they can't act. So you could find a lot of people who could look these characters, but then if you go, because if somebody could act, even if they don't look like the character, they could convince you that they are that, because they could act, they could portray, they could bring that spirit forward.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but it's the reverse. You'll be like, oh, they look good, and then like, whoa, they're not good, and then and once they're not good, people lose the connection to the film. So it's more important to really have people who could really portray and bring out these roles.
Mr. Anthony, the characters in the book, were they real, some of them?
All of them.
They were all real?
All real. If you cut the character, you get blood coming through. They were all real, all friends of mine, of my youth, and the people who I knew. Yes, like Freddie, for instance, Leonard, Rosary.
And some of the girls, yeah.
Yeah, tell me.
Yes, yes.
Tell me about the girls.
Yes.
Rosalie especially.
Rosalie especially. Well, she lived just about 3 houses from me.
So she was the girl next door, essentially.
More or less. And the cashew tree that is in the book, was almost equidistant between our house, on the other side of the road. And so this was really, I just reported there. I didn't invent anything at all. And Freddie with his cafe down the road, street.
Freddie's bar.
There was a Freddie, and the relationship was the same. I don't feel as if it was fiction at all, but well, there's some things. Now, one thing about a story is that you can take your materials and so on, and you make a story. So everything you say might not be true, will not be true, you see? But you have to do this to make a story, because this is the important thing from the novelist's point of view. If you are writing non-fiction, it's a different consideration, which is the truth, the actual occurrence. But in writing a story, you have to make it interesting for the reader. So if you don't have a story there, he would not be. But one of the things that Mike said a while ago there, the pionists in 1952. 1952 was slower. I mean, definitely we didn't have the cell phone then and things like that. But you would be surprised. The people had the same anxieties, the government and this and that, and same preoccupations. And it was even a little worse with things like water and electricity and so on. But there are always problems. It's just the time shifts and so on. But I think in 100 years' time, you'll have the same sorts of problems, the quarrels between the opposition and the government.
But that was pre-independence, right? So it was like we was now going for independence.
That was pre-independence, of course, but we did have a legislative council. I mean, the island was still run by people around us.
All right, well, Mr. Anthony and Mr. Mooledhar, thank you so much for being part of our show this morning. It was a pleasure meeting you, and we look forward to that film.
And all cinemas nationwide on the 27th of September.
Exactly. Well, we look forward to it.